Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Pemko number 4131CNBL automatic door bottom. Kind of hard to see it there with the fact that it's a lot of black. So the 4131 is representative of the fact that this is an automatic door bottom. The C means that it's in a clear aluminum anodized finish. NBL is a reference to the bristle with bar sort of feature down here at the bottom, as you can see. Automatic door bottoms, they automatically seal the bottom of the door when the door is closed. It's that simple. And we'll talk about how those work in a moment. So this automatic door bottom by Pemko, of which they are a manufacturer of several different variants, this is a relatively common one here, available in several different lengths and different finishes. This is the clear anodized finish. Okay. This 4131 is part and parcel of it having a drop bar seal, which forces the drop bar to go down against the floor, and has this nylon brush. Because that bristle is not symmetrical, so to speak, it's not in the center, one is in front of the other, that's what makes this a handed unit. You would want the bristle, or it's intended to have the bristle towards the exterior, okay, and the bar on the interior. So this unit here would be intended for a right-hand door, meaning that the plunger, and that's what this item is here, is on the hinge side, and this item would open up such that the bristle was on the push side. So let's start over with a description of automatic door bottoms. Simply put, when the door closes, the automatic door bottom seals. How it accomplishes that is a very simple sort of mechanism. This I'm going to refer to as the plunger. This is always the hinge side of the door. A model like this always mounts on the push side of the door. The opposite side, you'll see, does not feature a plunger. Okay, this would be considered the lock side of the door. This 4131 could be surface mounted to the face, but it could also be semi-mortised, meaning that you would take this unit and you would mortise the face of the door such that the body was flush to the face of the door and was completely mortised flush and even. A bit less common of an installation, but also a very nice, clean look installation as well. However, surface mounting is the most typical. This plunger, you can see right now that it's projecting out of the end of the unit. That's typical, and that's what it looks like when the door is opened. You can also see that there is a Phillips drive here, and as I were to turn that clockwise, goes back into the housing so that it's not sticking out nearly as much as it was before. Conversely, if I turned it counterclockwise, it would stick out further. The amount of distance that this sticks out from the housing is directly related to the amount of drop that the automatic door bottom goes through. So what happens is this: when you install this item onto the door, push side mount, this is on the hinge side. When the door is closed, this plunger makes contact with the stop of the frame. It has nowhere to go but in, and that's exactly how the automatic portion of this is accomplished. As the plunger here goes into the housing, you can see that this bottom drops down. Okay, now emulating an actual circumstance where my thumb is going to limit, you can see that it drops down evenly across the entire scope. These door bottoms, when the door is closed, the plunger hits the stop of the frame and is forced into the housing, allowing the bottom to drop like this and then like this, more like a kind of like a guillotine, I suppose, this and then this, because the end on the hinge side is going to encounter the floor, and if I were to use my thumb to completely restrict it over on one side, you'll see that it'll just drop from the other side versus this. So what happens in that event, because this plunger is connected to a flat spring inside of the housing, and evidence of the other end of the flat spring is this riveted pin here. So inside of this housing, from my finger here all the way over to here, there's a flat spring. When the plunger is depressed, that flat spring is compressed and it's bowed. It goes from being flat to being bowed. That bowing action is what pushes the center housing in and down. Okay, that's how that works. This is a low closing force model, so it's quite easy for me to do that with my finger. And doesn't present much of an obstacle if you have a door closer installed on the door in terms of having a hydraulic closer close the door. There's not much resistance from this model. Automatic door bottoms are really, in my opinion, an elegant solution because the seal is always tucked up into the housing and it's not dragging across the top of a finished wood floor or encountering a rug that might be on the inside of a door in a residential application or a commercial application. Every time the door opens, this housing snaps back up into its shell, so to speak. Okay. This model is handed in the sense that, again, the bristle is on the outside and the bar is on the inside. You don't have to install it that way, but that's why we're asking for the handing, so that this can be handed properly. Again, in this instance, while it may look backwards to you, this would be for a right-hand door. Hinge side here, this is the exterior, and it can only swing in. When you're figuring the size of this, you would measure for this when the door is closed, and you're measuring between the stops, assuming that this is a surface mount installation. You would then take that dimension, let's say it's 35 3/8, or something in that range, or even less, depending on the thickness of the stops. If you have a 3-foot door, your stops are 1/2 inch, let's say, 35 inch. You would then want to deduct an additional 1/8 of an inch just for clearance. So door is closed, measuring between the stops. Take that dimension, deduct about an 1/8 of an inch. And that would be the ideal length for this. If you're doing a semi-mortise, obviously it has to be the width of the door, okay, pretty much the width of the door. Keep in mind that your door might be beveled, so you'll want to, take into account the fact that the door measured from the push side might be different than the width of the door measured from the pull side. I say that this is elegant because of that reason, that the seal is not dragging across a floor and it's always retracted up in its housing. It's also elegant in my opinion because it's a very long-lasting sort of system, because you're really not dragging, you're just dropping the seal down to seal against the floor. And being a nylon bristle, it's very effective at keeping out, draft, good at temperature, good at keeping daylight out as well. And that's really why I like it. Now, one complaint, if I've sold 1,000 of these, if I've sold 10,000 of these, one out of those 10,000, I will hear this complaint. You hear that snap? I've had clients complain that that snap is too loud. And indeed, Pemko has models that have a buffer system inside of here between where that housing, you can see, snaps back up. They've got like a gasketing system to help reduce that. If you feel that that's going to be an issue, reach out to us and let's get you the right model. But it's very rare that is an issue. So we've talked about how to measure the net width of one of these, and you can cut them down in the field. Keep in mind, you can't get close to that rivet. You can't get past that rivet because that's holding the spring. You can reasonably expect to cut 2 inch off of this without any trouble. However, you're more than welcome to order the length that you need, specifically by ordering the next longest piece or pieces and indicating in the comment field what length you'd like for us to cut the door bottom down to, reducing the amount of work that you'll have to do overall. Now this is going to, I do want to state that this is always the hinge side. It can never be the lock side. So if you do cut it, never cut this side with the plunger. Never cut this side. It's the wrong side. Now, you can see that it's got exposed ends at both sides. You can see the inner workings, and you will see the inner workings. But what's nice is Pemko includes these little trim pieces here. Obviously, the one with the hole is the plunger side. Those two holes in each that are prepped there are for these tiny little screws that will hold them onto the edge, right into the feature of the extrusion, right at the tip of my finger. That's where that'll go. Obviously, you're going to get screws to attach it to the door, which will go through these holes that are drilled here. The screws are just going to go right through the housing. There's also a very small little screw that's here, and that's for installing and countersinking flush to the face of the stop, such that every time that the plunger makes contact with it, it's not digging a gouge in the stop of the wood frame, presumably, to give that metal something to connect, to push against, so that it's not, slowly over time damaging your frame. Other than that, short of saying that Pemko makes a full line of automatic door bottoms to suit all duty ratings that you might need, standard duty, heavy duty. Also, they make acoustical sorts of door bottoms specifically intended to retard the transmission of sound. And again, I'm a big fan of automatic door bottoms. I find them to be quite elegant, simple, long-lasting. They make them for surface and semi-mortise applications like this. They make them for mortise applications where they get mortised into the bottom of the door, making them completely concealed. There is a link below this video to the installation instructions, which are quite simple and straightforward. We've talked about most, if not all of this. The page 2 of this shows specifically how to go about cutting down automatic door bottoms, and then the 2 instances where you're mortising it or semi-mortising it, okay, figure 3 and figure 4 on page 2. Page 3 continues with the trimming of the end plates, and it's all very simple and straightforward. However, if you're going to cut it down in the field, you're going to want to pay special attention to the top of page 2 in reference to cutting the material down. It says, if the automatic door bottom is installed in a semi-mortise, prepare the door according to the dimensions shown on the profile drawing on front of label. What that means is, we're going to go over that now, and there's an image below this video showing everything important dimensionally about this automatic door bottom. You can see from that drawing that it's 1 and 27/32 tall. So, roughly 1 and 13/16. And then 19/32 thick, roughly 5/8 of an inch. Okay. If you're going to mortise the door, do a semi-mortise. Maybe best to hold off until you have the actual item. Step 2, cut from end opposite of the actuating plunger. We've covered that. When cutting, be sure that the drop bar is flush with the case on the plunger side, and that the gasketing insert projects at least an eighth of an inch. So they want, this housing can move in and out a little bit. You want to make sure that you've got the bar flush with the housing, and that the bristle is sticking out about an eighth of an inch. You can just grab that with pliers on the piece of metal there, the metal backer that the nylon bristle is connected to. Adjust and trim the gasketing insert so that it projects at least a 1/16 of an inch at each end from the drop bar, meaning over here. You can do that with end cutters, really. Okay. Bolt cutters, they say, end cutters. Crimp the ends of the brush strip and drop the bar down, and drop bar to prevent nylon brush from sliding. You're going to want to pull that out and get it so that you can't, lose it, is what basically is being said there. With the actuating plunger at the hinge side, fasten the automatic door bottom with the screws provided, etc., etc. However, that's assuming that you're going to make some sort of a cut to this item. which you can very easily do. In my opinion, you're going to want to be real careful cutting that nylon bristle, because you've got, you know, steel inside of there. You're going to want to cut that steel separately and not have a miter box saw go through this aluminum material. In my opinion, it's really just best to order this stuff from the factory. Pemko's cutting it to length anyway, so might as well just have them make it to the length that you want. For instance, we've done hotels and there's 30 different doors. Well, that, or 30 doors. That's 30 cuts that you have to make. You might as well just check them all and make sure that you get the right sizes and have the factory cut them. At that point, it's just a matter of prepping the door and then installing it to the face of the door itself, and then trimming it off with the end plates. Pemko, again, is a full-line manufacturer of all things automatic door bottom related, but also the common weather stripping material in commercial settings: thresholds, gasketing, material made of aluminum, stainless steel base, architectural bronze, and then a full complement of residential weather stripping as well. If you have any questions on the Pemko number 4131CNBL automatic door bottom or any other Pemko product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.